It wasn't often for Victor Charles to be this transparent, and I do believe his Catholic upbringing and teachings from his mentor, Father John R. Ahern, did make freedom of speech a very complicated topic when he was censoring stage productions and motion pictures. When he clearly admitted his own contradictions, it must have bewildered him all the more. It probably cut him to the heart knowing most of his roles were murderers and thieves, and he may have wondered how the Catholic Church looked down upon him for doing that. He was conservative in various topics of the culture in America in 1966. And he attended at St. Augustine High School, Villanova University, and the University of San Diego, and all three of these institutions of education were dominated by the Catholic Church. When I was 16 years old, my generation was far more liberal than the one Victor Charles had while growing up in the 1940s and into the early 1960s. It was a whole new horizon for a young generation looking for answers and creating new realms of music, theater, and film that triggered a liberal revolution, changing thoughts and minds and overturning conservativeness practically everywhere and overnight. Victor Charles, when first stepping into Hollywood, was embraced by director Robert Aldrich, who was then considered as being one of the old gang of the golden years of Hollywood. He was surrounded by others like Bette Davis, Joan Crawford, Olivia de Havilland, and Joseph Cotten, who were reaching the end of their brilliant acting careers. He hardly ever was cast with the younger actors and actresses who would soon become Hollywood stars. He was mostly rubbing shoulders with those stepping out of Hollywood because of their ages and their loss of popularities among their fans. When Victor Charles joined the Batman series, many of the guest stars were also from an older generation. There was Burgess Meredith as the Penguin, Cesar Romero as the Joker, Vincent Price as Egghead, and Eli Wallach as Mr. Freeze. Victor Charles was only 27 years old then in his television and motion picture career. On March 8, 1965, when America sent military troops into Vietnam, Victor Charles probably didn't realize what kind of revolutionary movement the younger generation was having when marching through the city streets of America and protesting against the Vietnam War. He also, most likely, didn't realize in 1966 that in the early morning hours in Greenwich Village, New York City, there would be a revolutionary riot at the Stonewall Inn on June 28, 1969, with gays, lesbians, and transgenders fighting against the New York City police for their rights to love whomever they wanted. On January 22, 1973, Roe v. Wade would be decided by the U.S. Supreme Court, making it a U.S. constitutional right for women to have legal abortions. He did later on write a poem against legal abortions that most likely upset many young and old women in America with his political and religious beliefs. Throughout the mid-1960s, there was a sexual revolution underway and was changing America. On June 13, 1969, the motion picture Blue Movie starred Viva and Lewis Walden, and it was written and produced and directed by Andy Warhol. The 1960s was a tidal wave crashing over the entire culture of America, and if you didn't know how to ride a political surfboard, you might find yourself drowning under the waves of politics and the many new thoughts coming from a young generation. There were liberal motion picture directors in Hollywood like Woody Allen, Robert Altman, Mel Brooks, Norman Jewison, Stanley Kubrick, and many others. Everything in the 1960s was going incredibly fast in the music world, television, and in motion pictures. There were up-and-coming actors and actresses like Woody Allen, Warren Beatty, Candice Bergman, Timothy Bawdens, Karen Black, James Caan, Julie Christie, Robert De Niro, Glenda Jackson, Dustin Hoffman, and many more. To be at the top of anything in life, it's virtually a must to have people around you that can open up doors for you. That is what took place with Victor Charles between 1958 to 1962. But now, in 1966, there were more doors being shut in his face than ever before. There were many news clippings criticizing Victor Charles's characters in television and motion pictures, but that is what he got by performing in numerous villainous roles. It's a shame that he wasn't given more quality roles in more classic settings that would have endeared him more to his audiences. But instead, he was only frightening them half to death. That was the price he had to pay by acting in poor, structured storylines filled with crimes and violence. The Victor Charles I knew was soft-spoken, amusing, and kind. Imagery in television and motion pictures often forge actors into something other than what they truly are. Victor Charles performed again in the television program The Wild Wild West, titled The Night of the Eccentrics, on September 16, 1966, and he also performed in two more Batman programs entitled The Spell of Tut and Tut's Case is Shut. There was a newspaper that was criticizing Victor Charles and comparing him to actor Maurice Evans, who was a steady character on the television program Bewitched. The writer favored Evans over Buono, but they both were seasoned Shakespearean actors. How ironic is that? Victor Charles and Maurice Evans, both quality Shakespearean actors winding up on television only to act in buffoonery productions. I'm confident they were given a great sum of money, but it was the price they paid while working in television. I don't knock either of them, because everyone needs to earn a buck. But it's sad that they weren't cast in classical Shakespearean programs on television instead. Near the end of the year, Victor Charles was performing in his one-man Christmas show in Brunswick, New Jersey on December 13, 1966. My father Sonny and I moved away from El Cajon in mid-1967 and relocated at an apartment at 729 Mission Boulevard in South Mission Beach. We were living a short distance away from my Auntie Susie and her son Carl. I was a sophomore at La Jolla High School, where my Uncle Tony and David Francis went before me. My father and I were like two bachelors, and most of my dinners were at George's Cafe across the street from a liquor store on Mission Boulevard. I was 15 years old, and my expanded boundaries allowed me to do almost anything I wanted to do. My father's business was located in Santee, California, approximately 25 miles away from the beach, and he worked long hours and leaving me alone most of the time. My friends at La Jolla High School were sons of prominent and wealthy fathers, and they lived in beautiful estates where many millionaires resided. My father and I were living in a studio apartment, and we had only one bed to share together. The monthly rent was $65, and when my friends visited me, I felt like a pauper, but they were envious of me because I didn't have any parental oversight. We drank beer, smoked cigarettes, splashed in the waves of the Pacific Ocean, and we sat on the hot sands looking at all the pretty girls wearing bathing suits while walking by us under the sun.